No, that the interview is really important. I think it's key. Honestly, it's when once you have interview invitations, really try you have to pay attention to do well during the interviews, because that's your last chance of telling the program that you are potentially a good candidate. So programs will try to avoid that if possible. So if we have all our strong candidates who are coming to us next year, all of them did step 3, that would be nice. Of your English is important for us to know that we understand you and you understand us, and also know if they're like Ronaldo supporters, like flag them not to be ranked.
Yes, hello everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Can you please hear me? If you can, just write in the comment or the chat box of this meeting so we can formally proceed. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. I am Dr. Kiani. I am an IMG from Pakistan and I'm the Managing Director of IMG Helping Hands. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have with us a very privileged, a very noble person, Associate Program Director of Internal Medicine Residency Program at St. Agnes Medical Center, California, Dr. Muhammad Al Hassan. Thank you very much, Dr. Al Hassan, for joining us today, for taking out the time to, brief all of the match applicants for future, preparations. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dr.
very much for joining us. Yes. Okay. So let me just give you and all of the participants a brief rundown of how IMG Helping Hands, work to help the IMGs transition from their home countries to the US healthcare setup. So, we provide different kinds of, resources accessible to IMGs. One of them, our flagship initiative of this organization is this webinar series where we, try our best to make such noble persons of US healthcare system, including the program directors such as you, Dr. Al Hassan, accessible for the IMGs. So this session today is very close to my heart because this is one of the questions that IMGs or all of the match applicants generally have on the top of their heads, that what exactly are program directors looking for in applicants. So I hope you don't mind me saying this, but today, like, the tables have turned. And IMG is, will be asking you the questions. And if you would be very kind to answer them, so IMGs can, benefit as much as they can from the session.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And first, I would like to apologize for the last time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it because of some other commitment, but I'm happy that we finally here. As an IMG myself, I'm really taking an opportunity to be able to give advice or help anyone who is really interested and keen to come to the United States and apply for residency here, knowing that all of you are really hardworking and really trying hard to get secure a position because you're really dedicated to the profession and you really wanted to just benefit yourself, your family, and the environment around you and the community around you. So yeah, whatever format you guys want. I don't know if you want me to start or you want to start with your questions, whatever you guys prefer.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Hassan. Again, you do not have to apologize. We definitely understand that all of this was math season, and then you had your tasks as attending physician or hospitalist. So yes, definitely. Commitments do okay. Thank you for joining us today. If we can start in this way, that you can give us a little bit, background rundown of you, like Dr. Muhammad Al Hassan as a person, and what was your journey in, transitioning into the US healthcare setup, as you clearly mentioned that you were an IMG yourself. And then, of course, all of the participants, all of the applicants, you're most welcome to, write down your questions in the chat box as well. We did create a poll as well, so we have a list of questions from, all of the community, from Instagram, from different resources. So for all the applicants who are live in the session, please write down your questions in the chat. And please, over to you, Dr. Al Hassan. So can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again for the opportunity. My name is Mohammed Al Hassan, born and raised in Sudan. I did my medical school over there, University of Khartoum. I graduated in 2003. I worked in my home country for 3 years before coming here to the United States, first with a student visa. And then I did all my USMLEs and then applied for internal medicine residency. And I did my internal medicine residency in St. Agnes Medical, St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. I graduated in 2003. And then my first job was academic hospitalist at UCSF Fresno internal medicine program. And then in 2019, I moved to St. Agnes Medical Center as academic hospitalist as well, where I'm working right now. And I have been the associate program director here in St. Agnes for the last 3 years. I'm interested in academic medicine, and I like teaching. I like clinical reasoning. I like point of care ultrasound. I like physical examination skills. Part of me being an IMG has always been the question about the utility of physical examination and the way we were taught about physical exam in our medical schools in the Middle East and in the developing countries in general, and how important that is in a developed country like the United States. And then personally, I'm a family guy as well. I have 2 kids. My son, he's in 11th grade, and my daughter, she's in the 1st grade. And I like soccer. I love soccer. I play soccer. I play with my son. He's better than me, but we compete every now and then. I like table tennis as well. That's what I like to do in my spare time.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And again, I would like to put the light on this part for all of the applicants who are present in this live session. I mean, this is like just my approach. This is what I conferred from Dr. Alisan's response, that all of you, I believe, I'm sure that all of you must have applied for the match for 2026. And usually the first question a program asks from the applicants is like, tell me something about yourself, and tell me something like briefly about yourself. So I mean, I understand that Dr. Hassan has been working as the associate program director, but again, the way Dr. Hassan summed up his journey, his hobbies, his interests, his career, everything in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I would say that all of the applicants, this is something you should be learning as well for your interviews. So thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. I mean, as you mentioned, as I mentioned, that you have been working as the associate PD for now. So you have been, reviewing countless applications, and you have been mentoring like hundreds of residents in your program as well. So how do you feel about this part of your job, like mentoring residents, believing that you play a very important role in their career, how they shape up as future physicians?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually like the fact that you just mentioned about summary of how to be able to introduce yourself. I didn't think about it, but you're right. I mean, it's an important skill during interview, which probably we're going to talk about. But yeah, try to kind of point out what you think is important in your career and what's important to you. That's probably going to be the first question that you're going to be asking most of the interviews, I would say. So yeah, you're correct. So yeah, I mean, sorting out the candidates for residency is challenging. It's not easy for program directors. Thanks God, I'm not program director. Most of the work is done by program director. I'm just helping out. We have an amazing PD here in our program, but yeah, they receive a lot of thousands of applications, and it's very important process, because me personally, I would like to work with those who are really genuine in loving internal medicine, and who are really professional in their approach to internal medicine, and they really enthusiastic, and they really need a strong program to develop their skills, and they can make the program better. In addition to the fact that hopefully the program also can make them a better physicians. But it's not an easy job, because the best way to know someone is really to work with them, but there's no way we can work with more than 3,000 applicants. So we have to sort out a way where we can really figure out statistically maybe who might be really the best candidate for this particular program. And again, I want to say that what I'm going to say here is really my just personal view. Doesn't reflect anything about my personal program, St. Agnes, or even the views of the program director here. Dr. Dehan might have different views. Other associate program director might have different views. Other programs, even outside California, I'm sure they have different views. It depends on the city, depending on the a lot of factors. So what I'm going to say here is really just my personal view, and just that I'm going to share with you. And hopefully, as someone who has been in academics for more than 10 years, hopefully you will find it useful. So yeah, sorting out the strong applications, maybe it's better to give you an overview of what is in the literature, right? I'm sure maybe some of you looked that up or asked those who really into the area of researching academic medicine and ERAS applications and outcome of residency trainings in general, especially internal medicine. And they looked into really what programs prefer in a candidate. So from what I have found, I'm probably just going to mention the top elements that most of the programs cited in different surveys and reviews. Some of them were like actually published. So I think that would be more legitimate, maybe more helpful to you guys, since it reflects maybe the opinion of most of the programs in the United States in general, not just a particular program. So what was cited, maybe the first thing in general is really academics. And what that is basically, yes, maybe not, maybe good news for some, maybe not so good news for some, but really, you probably know the answer, right? It's the UCMLE scores. Now, step one being fail and pass, and now the shift is of focus is now moved to step two CK. So if you really have a very standing score in step two CK, that's move you ahead a little bit. If you don't have a very strong, then the might put you back a little bit. Now, most of the programs, honestly, they still, some program might have some filtering system. I personally prefer not to have that. I think most programs need to have like a holistic approach to the application. We understand, I personally understand that really any exam, it just reflects how you perform in that particular time during that particular exam. So for me, it just does reflect that. It doesn't mean this is your whole career is really based on that particular, I don't know, 8 hours or 7 hours of exam. Definitely, it's part of reflecting your professionalism and your commitment to the profession of medicine, and you know how much you like to read and study and know the hardcore material of internal medicine or medicine in general. If you're talking about you know, medicine exams like UCMLE, which tackles many specialties. But yeah, at the end of the day, you really have to pay attention to the scores because it's probably a starting point for a lot of program directors. Now, if you don't have a very high score, still there's a lot of areas that you can focus on, right? And again, we'll talk about CK. How about step 3? For step 3, honestly, I think it's one of the things I always advise people to do is to try to take step 3 before they apply or during the application. I personally think step 3 should be eliminated. I don't believe that it's something that needs to exist. I don't know why we do it. It's stupid, in my personal opinion. I don't know why someone in internal medicine residency need to read and study about OBGYN or like pediatrics, but it is what it is, and it's a requirement for you to move from PGY1 to PGY2 in most programs if you haven't done that yet. And in that regard, some programs, because of the internship, as you can imagine, is a tough year, it's a busy year. So sometimes it might be hard for you to study for the exam. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen quite often, but it does happen. So some interns might not be able to pass the exam, and then that will pull the program in a difficult situation. So programs will try to avoid that if possible. So if we have all our strong candidates who are coming to us next year, all of them did step 3, that would be nice. That would be something that programs will appreciate. So if you're able to take a step 3, I think that would be a plus in your application. Now, does the score matter? Not really. But honestly, if you have a good score in step 3, because a lot of people do not have a high score in step 3, even when they have high score in CK, you know, that might push you a little bit even further. If you have someone like you who have a high CK score, but you have higher score in step 3 and they have lower score in step 3, that might be a tiebreaker for some programs, maybe. But again, generally, just passing the step three is what is needed. So that's one thing. The other part of the academics is how you perform during your medical school and how strong your dean's letter, or now they call it, especially here in the United States, the medical student performance evaluation. It's a little bit more detailed in U.S. medical schools compared to the other medical schools in other developing countries, but it's really supposed to reflect the overall academic performance during the years of the medical school. So that's important. Programs will look into how your grades were, especially in the rotations that apply to that particular specialty. So for me, I look into internal medicine rotations that are listed in the dean's letter, and how well the comments were in that letter, and what you grade during the internal medicine and sub-I rotations, and whether there's any specific standing out comments from any internal medicine physician during that rotation. And then other rotations as well, I scan them quickly, like pediatrics, family medicine. These are related to internal medicine more closely, and then of course the other specialties as well at last. Also, I'm looking for red flags in academic performance during medical school. If there's any delay, have you been disciplined for any reason? Any red flag that might tell me that the candidate may be struggling academically, or if there's any professional issues. It might be very clear in the dean's letter, but it might not. We're trying to read between the lines too sometimes. But given the limited time we have in reviewing all the applications, we might not be able to just read everything in the dean's letter, especially if it's lengthy. But yeah, the dean's letter, the performance during medical school also has its weights. So that's kind of the academic part. After that is really, I would say, many programs cited the letter of recommendations as also one of the top factors that determine how strong this candidate is. So the letter of recommendation is basically just telling me, those who work with you before, how do they feel about you? How do they see your performance during the time that you work with them? So strong letters, definition of a strong letter of recommendation varies, I would say. And of course, I imagine each one will look at it differently. But in general, at least from my perspective, I think what one is, the longer the period that you work with someone who wrote your letter, the better. That's important factor. If I get the letter of recommendation from internal medicine physician that work with you just for a week, is definitely not as strong as someone who worked with you for like a month, 4 weeks or more, right? Because that person is expected to write you a stronger letter. They know you better. I can trust them better to evaluate you and know you better. So try to get letter of recommendation from those who really know you longer and know you well. Of course, if you're able to get a letter from someone who had like more prestigious rank, for example, that's good. If you have a letter from a professor of medicine or a chair of medicine, of course, that really has a good weight. But honestly, for me personally, if you have a strong letter of recommendation from an academic hospitalist who is just a regular academic hospitalist, but he worked with you in the floor for like 4 weeks, and especially if it's a hands-on experience, for me, it's really much better than a letter of recommendation from a professor in medicine in Harvard that barely knows you, or like you work with for just a week, or in Mayo Clinic or all other big institutions. Because I believe those who work with you closely, and especially if they are related to my field, I think it has more weight. I can trust them more to know you and give me a better idea about you as a person, as a medical student, as a potential resident in my program. So try to get it from someone who knows you longer, who knows you well, and also ask them really if they can write you a strong letter or not. A strong letter meaning they really can put a lot of objective data. They can give some examples. Examples are very important in the letter. What are examples that they can put in? Not just the generic terms that we see all the time. Some programs prefer terms like to compare the candidate or the student to other student that you work with. For example, he's on the top 1% or 5% of the medical student I work with. that might have more weight. So if they can put that in, that's good. So always when you get, I advise you, if you want to get a letter of recommendation beforehand, you work with someone you know that you're going to work with them for a week, so like for a longer time, hopefully like a month. Tell them at the beginning, hey, I would really appreciate it if you can observe me during this month, and if you can write me a letter of recommendation by the end of the month, because that way you prepare the writer to observe you and give some specific comments during the whole period, compared to when if you ask them at the end, and then it might, okay, yeah, I will, or they might hesitate, or they might not be sure, or they might not even remember particular thing that you did well during that period. So if you ask them early, that would be a better. I understand that most of you, maybe they have applied already, and maybe you have submitted your letter, but even for the future, I think that's something to look at. But this is how programs look at the letters of recommendation, because it really has a lot of weight. If you have like 3 or 4 letters from those who are really related to the specialty that you apply to, I think that would have had to really have a higher weight. And then the last one, I'll probably mention this one and then maybe take some more questions, is a personal statement. That's also important, and it's listed high in the thing that programs looked at. Personal statement should be personal. It's not resume. It's not a CV. We already had your CV in the ERAS application. We don't want a duplicate resume. We want a personal statement. We want something that you wrote yourself to reflect your personal perspective about the profession of internal medicine in my case, right? Common things is why you want internal medicine, what got you into internal medicine. You can highlight the things that maybe you think is important, but is not in the CV, or you want to highlight it because you think it's really important to you, right? Especially if it pertains to the program that you are applying to. So the personal statement, of course, the cliche is always you start with the introduction is important, and I know that you know this, and everyone talks about it, but that's the reality, because I'm not going to start reading the personal statement from the bottom or from the second paragraph. I'm going to start reading it from the first paragraph. So if you're all able to catch my attention during the first paragraph, I might continue to read your personal statement. But if you fail to do that, then I might just skip it, or just read it sporadically really quickly and scan it, not read it fully. But you would like the program to read your personal statement if you think you wrote a good one and you really put a lot of effort into personal statement, and I'm sure you probably all did. This is something I struggled with initially, because in my culture, I wasn't used to talk about myself. I don't know what should I write in, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking about myself. But it's really not to brag or to really say that I'm the best person on earth and the best candidate for you guys. You have to pick me up, of course, but it's really just to be yourself and kind of feel it like as a way, an opportunity for you to just really just have a narrative about your personality to other people in the same profession. The story, I think it should be definitely related to internal medicine in a way or another, but it doesn't have to be. Just have to be about your own personal experience, right? The classic things is really just avoid mistakes, especially grammatic mistakes. It shouldn't be lengthy. I think 1 page is very reasonable. Don't repeat yourself a lot. I don't know about AI and how it can help you in writing your letters. Honestly, a lot of time we can kind of have a hint that it's written by AI or not, but you can always get some help from other persons to review your personal statement, including AIs, in my opinion. But it shouldn't really. It still should be a reflection of yourself, not really just something that you just want to put in your application and not really paying much attention to it. So personal statement, I think it's important. So yeah, this is kind of maybe the top factors I would say that most of the programs will probably prioritize when looking at the candidate application.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan. You were like very elaborate, and I truly value your time. Just a quick couple of follow-up questions, and then we'll move on to the next topics, of course. So one thing, like we were discussing about the personal statements, right? So you do review thousands. Let's suppose you receive 2,000 applications, so you read 2,000 personal statements in that particular match process, right? So what are some phrases? What are some things that make you sit up? You really dive personally into that personal statement, and what are some things that are cliche that you just skim through everything, and like how program directors, or how you as a person, I would say, like if it's one, if it doesn't work like one recipe for all, but like what are your thoughts on this, that what makes a personal statement personal? And like, is it okay if there are many applicants who have their own personal stories, and they might ask AI to refine it up for them? So do programs run an AI check to see if it was written by AI, or like it's okay to get the grammatical help from AI? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think they really have like scan all the personal assessment was AI, to be honest with you. But um, all of us has been using AI for some time now, and you kind of most of us probably had a sense that there's something written by AI or not, right? In one way or another. Of course, there's always you can always, if you're in doubt, you can always run it by um, any of the software that you can check it out. But I don't think really they programs most of them. They don't have the time for that anyways. And again, the personal statement is just really, I think it's either can harm your application, or at least two things that you want to pay attention to. You don't want the personal assessment to harm your application, right? And by this, I mean you don't want it to be too short or too lengthy, because in that way, people will not unlikely to read it. If it's
Yeah,
too short, it might not reflect interest. If it's too long, okay, sorry, we don't have time for that, right?
yeah.
So also, of course, if it's a lot of mistakes, a lot of grammatic mistake, a lot of repetition, then definitely that might harm your application. And then the other spectrum, so this is one end. The other end is if you're able to make it personal in a way that the introduction is really appealing to the reader, and that's really just a personal thing. People has different tastes of what they read. So one thing I read that I really liked, if I give it to my program director, they might see it as neutral, right? It's just because it's just really our different taste of what we read. We and based on our background, based on our own experiences, different factors can affect how we perceive what we read. So it's very variable, but at the end of the day, it's really I think if you're sincere in what you wrote, if you put some effort in it, if you edit it many times and put some effort into it, again, especially the introduction, I think at the end of the day, you can come up with something that most people, I would say, the average person would say, yes, yeah, I really like this personal statement. I will rate it 7 to 10 out of 10, in my opinion. So again, story, yes, maybe. But even without a 30, if you're able to get something that's a little bit catchy or a little bit unique to you, I think and that'll be helpful. One thing I personally like in personal statement is to make it one unit. I like things to be connected. I like the paragraph to be connected. And the thing I like the most is really when you have the last paragraph connected to the first paragraph. When at the end you mention something that's related to the most important thing that you mentioned in the introduction, which is probably the story, the most important story in your personal statement. If you can link your goals, what you want in a program, and what you like, what you're looking for, what's your vision for your profession, if you can link that to that story again, that's catchy, in my opinion. That's just my personal view. I like that when I see it, and it makes me interested in the one who wrote the letter.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alisan. So that brings me to my next question. So we have, been discussing a lot about the weightage of CK, like the score of your assembly step to CK. So like, do- does Saint Agnes, I mean, you're associate PD in this program, so you might have an idea of this program, but in general or in particular to your program, do your program put a specific filter on a specific step 2 CK score, or like we generally hear this a lot that programs now holistically review an application. So what is the exact recipe of this holistic review if you do not put a filter, or if you do, like what are you looking for in an ERAS application?
Yeah, so if I would say like people with high scores, probably they're going to be reviewed first, and then people with lower score, maybe they're going to be reviewed last. But at the end of the day, all the applications are scanned. All the applications would be looked at. Um, of course, the programs have the luxury of picking up the candidate they want. That's why they have the luxury to put a filter or not. But I think some programs, if I'm not mistaken, I imagine they might not even look at some of the lower scores to begin with. Maybe just filter them out, and they don't really look at them unless they have some spare time during the process of reviewing applications. If they feel like they don't have enough applicants with the criteria that they filtered, maybe they're going to lower the filter for them and look into the other applications, I imagine. But most in us here, we try always to look at everything. We have this general criteria that can be easily looked at, like the visa requirement, the scores, there's publications or not, US experience or not, just really scanning the application in general, the thing that you guys already aware of, and you try to summarize your resume based on. So we scan those, and then start with what would sounded like a stronger applicant based on these basic criteria, and then take it from there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So, talking about the filters, like programs, generally programs do apply, filters on the step two CK score. So, do programs also apply filter on the year of graduation? Like, does it matter if you're a 3-year-old grad, if you're a 1-year-old grad, if you're a 10-year-old grad? So, what is the impact of that?
Yeah, so they do, but I think it's not as a strong filter as the scores or USMLE and the trials in your exams, maybe. So I would say that yes, most programs have preference to those who are recent graduates. People call it like the date of graduation bias. It's a reality. It does exist. Whether that is really good or bad, we don't know. But that's just a reality. People in general have the perception that those who are recent graduate, they expect them. So the bias comes from what? First, they think that those who are recent graduate are up to date with learning, right? They have been studying more than those who are like old graduate, right? Because they have been doing their exams, they just finished their medical school, they're relatively fresh in their learning, right? So they hopefully know the guidelines and recommendations better because they have been studying those for their exams and for their graduation. So that's one factor. Also, because they think that they are in the study mode, right? They have been studying for exams recently, not 3, 4, 5 years ago. And we know that during residency, there's still some exams that you're required to do, like the in-service exam during your training. And of course, the most important thing is the board exam, which takes me to the second other point, which is, we think that people who are recent graduates, they probably do better on exams, so they can have a better board pass score, and so they have potential to elevate the passing rate for the program. Programs want to have like 100% passing rate, right? This is something they always talk about, 100% passing rate for their board exam. So they like to have that. They trust those who have been studying recently than those who have been not doing exams for years. And then also they think that the recent grads, they're like easier to teach generally because they probably younger, they're more receptive to feedback. You can modulate them a little bit easier than someone who has been practicing for a while, and they're always in certain mode that you might be hard for you to modulate, right? Especially for faculty who are like relatively young. So if you have a faculty who's actually younger than the resident, that might create some challenge, and theoretically at least. So in that regard, programs prefer those who are younger because they call it the blank slate perception, right? It's just easier to modulate, easier to get feedback, easier to teach in general, and they're open to feedback. So this is a little bit, yes, it might be biased, but at the end of the day, it does exist. So what what I recommend for to minimize that bias for those who are maybe prone for that bias, who are not recent graduates. Again, I don't believe that just because you're 6, 5, 7, 8 years from medical school graduation doesn't mean that your application will not be looked at, especially if you have strong other elements in your application like good scores and good letter of recommendation. I don't think it will be a major factor. But what you can do is, again, just pay attention to the other factors in your application, the thing that you are controlling, like your scores, or even if you're not able to, if you already did your exam, you cannot modify that. Personal statement. This is one area we just talked about that you can actually improve your application with, right? Letter of recommendation. Get a strong letter of recommendation, especially if you're able to um, get to work with someone in the same specialty that you're applying to, and you work with them for some time, and they're able to write you a really strong letter. Because at the end of the day, even if you're like 10 years graduating and you work with an academic hospitalist for a month, and they really gave me a very strong letter of recommendation, that will make me comfortable. Yeah, this candidate, he knows internal medicine in the floor based on this strong letter of recommendation from hospitalists. So so there's other things that you can do to kind of compensate, so to speak, for the year of graduation, if you think it might be a factor or a bias against your application.
Okay, thank you so much. That answers like a lot of questions from the applicants. Moving on to the next part, like we have been talking a lot about the academic part, the year of graduation. So there's another thing that you might see like in a lot of applications that applicants talk about teamwork and leadership. How do programs see like leadership qualities in like my next follow-up question would be a lot of people talk about leadership, about teamwork, but how do they actually prove it? How do you like look at the CV and you know that this is actual leadership that this person is talking about, and this is not something like just for the sake of mentioning it in the application.
Right. Yeah, it's I would say probably it's how can you reflect the leadership role that you have in application? How you can tell us um, this experience, how is it going to help you as a resident, right? What skills you learn from this leadership role, and what outcome was seen and objectively shown in this role. Like for example, if you have a leadership role you have something to do with ultrasound, for example. Like me personally, if your application say that you during your medical school you were the leader or the one of the leaders of the ultrasound project or ultrasound committee or interest group in your medical school, and you created some curriculum to teach other medical student a point of care ultrasound. That's tell me that you're interested in this, and this is something that pertains to me, and this is something that I think is important in the resident I want to work with. So it's definitely gonna catch my attention, and I'll consider that as strengths in your application. So if you're applying for, I guess, the same thing, pediatrics, leadership roles in something related to pediatrics, that would be will have more weight. But really, the important thing is what's the outcome of that leadership role. How can I know that it was valuable? It was something that really had some footprints in your personality. And again, that's something that you can put in personal statement, and you can talk about in your personal statement to tell me objectively, how did that experience make you a better a physician or a better person in general, even if it's not directly related to internal medicine. If you think it humbled you in one way or another, it made you really think humbly about yourself, even if you think like you have achieved a lot. But this experience, for example, made me realize that I should not be too proud or too bragging about what I have achieved. So this is important because it's an important attribute to internal medicine physicians, particularly, but of course for any other person in medical field. So if you're able to tell me how that leadership role reflect in your persona, in your relationship to the profession, to internal medicine, that I think that would be more important than just writing it in your CV.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So that brings me to my next question. Like, there is a section of hobbies in the ERAS application. So, what do you think is the importance of that section? That many I've seen, like personally, I've seen that many of the applicants, just like generic hobbies, and they do not generally pay attention to that part. So, I don't know how do programs see that part. And follow-up question again. So, there are 10 experience section in the ERAS. So, you can mention 10 experiences. What are programs looking for in those 10 experiences? Like, do they all have to be clinical slash research, or do you want to see an applicant as a person? Do you want like one or two experiences, not to mention about the clinical part, about like something, for example, an entrepreneurship that a person has done, or some leadership role that that person has done? So what's your take on this too?
Yeah, so there's two parts: the experiences and the hobbies, right?
Yeah,
So the yeah, experiences is, I think, again, both for me are important. The clinical experience, thing that are related to internal medicine, for example, for me, but also I think the personal experiences is also important. I would like to know that, um, if I can figure out from your application that you're a humble person, you're really very what's the word, like really humble. You are your communication skills with other people really good. You have reached to your community. You have diversity in your thinking. You're not really focused on one aspect, and ignoring the others, which might be important to you as a person. These kind of things, I think personal experiences still have a lot of weight. If you're able, again, to reflect how these experiences shaped your persona and made you a better person. The same for hobbies. Honestly, it's, again, your application is just really trying to connect with the program. So, and of course, people will see it differently. For example, for me personally, I always joke about the fact that if I see in your application that you like soccer, and especially if you like Messi more than Ronaldo, I would be impressed by that. I will raise your application higher up and talk to the program director about you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just really the personal connect with those applicants. It's definitely putting some substance to that hobby. If you can tell me a little bit about it, that would be nice, because it tells me about your persona, and that you're really paying attention to your personal life, and you're paying attention to your family, if you have family, or your community, and you're not just a nerd that is really not, it might be difficult to deal with, even if you are academically strong. But if you don't have that nice persona, you might give us some hard time when you are with us in the program. So we'd like to avoid that if possible. So we're trying to figure that out from things like the experiences and the hobbies. It's just telling us a little bit more about your persona.
Thank you very much. Like, I like your sense of humor as well. So moving on, we've already discussed like a lot of things about how the programs decide when sending out the interview invites. So the next part is, apart from academic excellence, so you have figured out like this academic excellence is okay for this program. So you have sent out an invite. Apart from that, what are three attributes that you're looking for in an applicant in the interview that decides how you put that applicant in the rank order list? So what are you looking for in the interview?
Yeah, interviews are important. So talking about the hobbies, I want to say that, me personally, I like to talk about your hobbies during the interview as well, because I feel like it's one way of connecting to the person. So I always try to make a note of the hobbies that you mention in your application if you're already in an interview, to try to kind of connect with the candidate and talk about them, and also know if they're like Ronaldo supporters. I flag them not to be ranked. So no, the interview is really important. I think it's key. Honestly, it's once you have interview invitations, really try, you have to pay attention to do well during the interviews, because that's your last chance of telling the program that you potentially a good candidate. If you are already invited for an interview, it's they're saying that, hey, you're a potential candidate. We want to know more about you, and we're interested in your application. We're gonna just see if you are a good fit for us, and also to help you know if we are a good fit for you. So the most important thing I would say among all the skills is communication skills. Communication skills are key, and it's one of the 6 core competencies. And by the way, if any of you do not know what these 6 core competencies are, you have to. Um, so once you get the rank, hopefully once you get matched, go and read about the 6 core competencies. These are very important. And I'm gonna make an ad here. So if you wanna, I have a video about the 6 core competencies. I talked about them in a little bit more details. You can go to YouTube and look into this, but just a side note, because they are very important. One of them is communication skills. So during the interview, we really would like to see how your body language is during an interview. Unfortunately, we cannot have the usual interview that we used to have in the past, and have you guys come in here and walk with us, and really talk to you more directly. But it's most of the, or almost 100% nowadays, the interviews are online. So we look at something like, for example, first of all, the appearance, right? The setting, and I understand that different countries might have different difficulties with this, because you need a good internet connection, you need really good background, good light. There might be some areas that you might struggle with this. We understand all that, but really have to make some effort to make the light good in the Zoom meeting, right? You really adjust the background. The voice should be clear. The internet connection, try to make it the best. This thing's really important because it's part of the communication, unfortunately. So this is one thing. And then the other thing is the fluency of your English is important for us to know that we understand you and you understand us, and your patient will understand you, and they'll be able to really talk to you easily. So practice. If you think somehow you think your English is good, all right, fine, that's good. If you get some feedback from someone that you need to improve your fluency in English, this is something that you should take seriously and try to improve your language and vocabulary and communication skills. Try to improve your interview skills to be able to organize yourself as you talk. And this is important, and I feel like there's a lot of ways nowadays that people can improve on this. So I would advise that you try to look into, for example, some people suggest videoing yourself. Make a video of yourself how you do like a mock interview, right? And then you can actually catch a lot of things that you didn't notice before when you review the video, and you realize, oh, I'm doing this movement, or like this, I say this word a lot, or you really can understand a lot about yourself when you do it. The first time I did this, it was surprising to me. I didn't know that it really can make a lot of difference, but it can. Have someone video you, and then they can give you some feedback about this. Just 10 minutes, doesn't have to be lengthy. And then, of course, preparation. So be prepared for the interview, especially for programs that you're really interested to join. Practice is key. Read about the program beforehand, especially the faculty that you're going to interview, to show them that you're really interested and you have a background, you did your research. Of course, sometimes this is easier for some programs than others, but still just do your best. Body language, eye contact, just be yourself. Try to be, it's easier said than done, but be relaxed. Really, it's just a time really to express yourself and get to know the person in front of you. Yes, I know it's high stakes. The programs have the luxury of picking up whomever they like for the rank, but at the end of the day, also see it as an opportunity for you to pick up the program that you like, right? Is this faculty is really seem friendly. They ask me relative questions. They seem interested in me, because they're going to be the ones that you're going to stick with and be around for 3 years. They're going to be the one who are going to teach you. So yeah, I mean, it's I understand that a lot of us as an IMGs, yeah, we want to just get to a program and we're just gonna start because it's really hard, and we have tried a couple of times. I just gonna want to get in. I get that it's important, it's high stakes, but also try to do yourself a favor by also paying attention to the program that you interviewed and try to see which one like really you connected to the best during the interview time. And then just be nice to everybody, especially the coordinators. You know, they are the ones. Man, a lot of the programs they really do get some feedback from the resident that you talk to, from coordinators that you talk to during the interview. They ask them if there's any red flags. Red flags is always there. We want to see if there's anything that during the interview that really made us, hey, I don't know, I just didn't like this person. He said something that's not fitting his resume. I think that he didn't really he didn't seem like he was honest about what he said. I think he did too much rehearsal, that is not genuine or something like that. These are kind of red flags that some programs might. Some of them are more serious than others. Not being professional is a big one. You're not paying attention. You're not showing eye contact. You're not in time. You're not really seem interested. These all are red flag that might harm your interview. And I would really ask you, if you're not really interested in a program that you get interview from for any reason, just apologize and just don't really waste your time and their time and interview with them if you feel like there's a red flag about the program that you have seen.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much. That reminds me of my childhood. So I've always been into debates and speeches. So this is one thing that my mother used to tell me. We were not like very fond of having cell phones and video cameras back then. So this was something that my mother used to tell me, that go practice in front of a mirror and see how your body language. If that is attractive to you, that might be attractive to the audience as well. So that was one way I used to do things back then. So thank you very much for your insights on this as well. Uh, Moving on, thank you very much for your insights, but like I'm curious to know this. Like, we have been discussing a lot about different parts of the applications, right? So when it comes to the rank order list, what resurfaces among the application? Like, does the step 2 score resurfaces, the LORs resurface, the year of graduation, or is it only the interview presence? What impact did that interview leave on the panel? Like, what is it that you're weighing at the end?
Yeah, I would say the interview really has a lot of weight, because if, for example, the program used a scoring system during the interview, if you interviewed with 3 faculty, the 3 of them rated you as 9 or 10. Honestly, because before the interview, they're always saying that you are a potential candidate. So if during the interview you're able to go really even higher, you're going to be at the top of the rank for sure, right? So, but at the same time, if there's a lot of red flags, and many faculty, they really felt, there's something about this person I didn't like, or there's a red flag in their application. Some of them rated you as 4 or 5 only. Then yeah, you're probably not gonna rank high, even if your application is strong otherwise, because you have been invited for an interview because of your strong academics and your strong application, right? But after that, it's important part of the communication and interview. If you're not able to pass that, then yes, sorry, because there's other very strong candidate academically that did much better interviewing than you, so we're not going to rank you. So I would say definitely the interview is key, and it is important that you do well during the interview and reflect yourself well during the interview, after your application. And then during the ranking, I imagine most of the program will take both into consideration, your rating during the interview in addition to the academics in general. I think most of the program, they have, again, based on what they prioritize, let's say the top 4 factors: their scores, their year of graduation, the strengths of the personal statement, and how well they did in the interview. That will determine the rank order for them. And again, different program will have different priority in the thing that they will use for ranking, but these are still going to be the general rules. But yeah, interview, I think, is going to be key in any case.
Yes, thank you so much for this as well. So moving on to another part, like there have been a lot of talk in the town with the recent, J1 pause and now the fee implemented. I mean, I don't know the actual status of this, but this proclamation on the H1B visas right now. So how do programs see the visa requiring applicants in this particular match season? Like, is it a tiebreaker? Do you prefer the applicants who are non-visa requiring, or like you're okay with sponsoring the visa? So what is your take on this?
Yeah, so the program should be clear from the beginning whether they can sponsor visa ship or not, right? That's really, if you require a visa, that definitely that's the first thing that you should look at.
Yeah.
That's key because you don't want to waste your application for in a program that's are hesitant or not clear on whether they're gonna sponsor visa ship or not. That's the first thing. If they are, then honestly, I think if your application otherwise is strong, I don't think that would be of a barrier if everything else looks well. Of course, not requiring a visa can move you up in your application if there's, like, if I have two strong candidates in scores, in letter of recommendation, in personal statement, everything looks really good, but one of them really doesn't require a visa. The other one requires a visa. Most of the program, I would say, they probably gonna go with the one who doesn't require a visa. But that doesn't mean that the visa requirement is definitely can harm your application. I think it can help you go maybe a little bit higher, but it's not gonna affect you as much as the other important parts, the academics, the personal statement, and the letter of recommendation, I would say. So yeah, first step, always check the visa status. I think it's very challenging, unfortunately, for those who are applying in countries that has a ban. It's a reality. We have to live with it. And a lot of, I think most of the program will still interview those who are applying from these countries with the recognition that it all depends on when the ranking time comes in, what's the status on that time. With this administration, things change even before the meeting and after the meeting. I have to check the news. It's gonna be different, right? It's just crazy. So no one knows what's gonna happen tomorrow, let alone on March or April when things are gonna be totally different. So most of the programs will still interview people from these countries, I would say, but I think it's gonna be really challenging for them. Um, Thinking about, hey, should I apply this year or should I just wait for another year? Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that because it's just the craziness that's happening around us. No one can predict what can happen, but they have to trust their gut feeling and go with it.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, this is unfortunate, but of course, this is what we have to live with. So I mean, I wish good luck for all of those applicants who are, belonging to those countries. Moving on to the next part, there is a lot of, air in the town as well about the research and publications. I mean, I don't know, data, releases every year. ERAS releases that this is the average number of publications that a particular IM applicant had, the particular dermatology applicant, so it goes on for all of the specialities. So how do programs look at the research? What exactly do they mean by research? Is it like the authorship, the order that they're looking at, the quality of the journal that they're looking at? I mean, what are programs looking at when they say they're looking at research? So what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe specialty driven.
Mhm.
Um, because there are two types of research, right? There's the basic science research and then there's the clinical research, right? For me personally, in internal medicine, I like clinical research more. If you have done a lot of publications in the basic science research, that's good. It means maybe you are familiar with the research process and literature review and manuscript submission and all that, which is helpful. But if you don't have a lot of clinical research, um, well, I'll take that back. Is if you have just only basic research, still that's good. But for someone who had more clinical research, they posted case reports or case series in internal medicine, or have a systematic review or narrative review in a topic related to internal medicine. I would take that for me personally as has more weight in their application because I feel like they're bigger. It's going to help them understand the field of internal medicine more. Um, than just the basic science. But really the research section, I think it's because the research is important. It's a requirement for graduation in any residency training, including internal medicine. Most of the program will ask you to have some scholarly work every year, or at least by the time you graduate. I know not most of us like research. Not all of us will be researchers, but the fact that you are a physician, you need to read research to be a better physician. It's just fact. You need to be updated. You need to know what it means when you need a trial, what exactly these terms mean. So you need to have some research background. You don't need to be a researcher, to successfully graduate from internal medicine program, but you need to have a good background. So for us, it's not like, I don't know, maybe like the dermatology, other ophthalmology, they like more of the basic science research. I don't know, but for me, internal medicine, I like more of the clinical research and things that are really related to my field. And I understand that that might not be an opportunity for publication for everyone. If you don't have anything, for me, okay, if someone has more publication in internal medicine and everything else looks good, both of you, I'd probably pick the one with a little bit more research background. But at the end of the day, it's not very high, I would say, in the elements that the programs in internal medicine maybe look at least from in my opinion.
Yes, okay. So yes, definitely makes sense that clinical research is more valuable to, fields that are clinical, of course. I mean, that definitely makes sense. So, like we have received another question from the applicants that what is the weightage of, another additional language apart from English? Let's suppose Spanish. A lot of applicants do have are Spanish speaking. So how do programs see that? How valuable is that additional, language apart from the English?
The fluency in English during the interview, you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean that how important is, having another language skills
Oh,
with you. Like, for
right, right,
example, Spanish. A lot of applicants do are
right.
Spanish speaking. So yeah.
It's a factor, honestly. It's a factor. Again, program specific. For us here, for example, I will have a lot of Spanish population. So if you're fluent in both languages, that's a plus for sure. Um, if you fit all the other criteria, and again, just like the same thing, two candidates, one of them is Spanish speaking, and the other one is only speaks English, and both of you are
Yeah.
strong.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably pick up the one who I like dual language. It's helpful. I have been trying to learn Spanish for the last 10 years, but unfortunately, it's just still very limited. So if I work with someone who are really a resident who has like good Spanish language, I think is very helpful. But just to give you a hint, I don't know if you have tried that, but lately I learned that ChatGPT is actually not a very bad translation tool. I don't know if you guys tried it, but I have tried it a couple of times. It's actually very good in translation than using artificial interpreter. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be of a factor like compared to what it was before, because it really seems like a person with you talking to the your patient with you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but with AI coming up, I mean, a lot of things are changing, and
yeah.
this dual language plus is like one of those aspects. So I've been receiving another question from a lot of applicants. I mean, different programs have different, takes on this part. But how do you or your program see attempt in USMLE, either step one or step two? In like, if you do give chance to those applicants, what are your like genuine recommendations for those applicants? How can they elevate their applications?
Yeah, I think it's important. Honestly, if you have a failed attempt, it's one of the red flags, unfortunately. So you have to maybe mention it somewhere. What happened? We understand sometimes things happen. It's not like gonna throw out your application if you have an attempt, but it's something that, oh, okay, maybe their academics is not as strong. So once we see that, we're gonna look at the other academics part. We're gonna look at the CK. We're gonna look at the score. We're gonna look at the dean's letter. We're gonna look at the strengths of the letter of recommendation. Anything that we'll try to see if we can have other parts of your application that can compensate for this. Um, but I would say that if you have a failed attempt, maybe try, and you think that, for example, you really have like a life event or something that really was very tough for you, and or like any reason that you think maybe um, didn't help you during the that exam. If you're able tell us a little bit about it if it's not very personal and you feel like it, you can uh, you learn from that experience. Even sometimes if you just you wasn't prepared, you didn't do well, you regret it. You tell us, hey, unfortunately, I have an attempt. I learned from that experience. I learned that I need to be more dedicated and learn more, or something like that. I think that still helps. So yes, it's something that we look at. If once we see that there's some failed attempts, it raises some questions, but I don't think it automatically throughout your application.
Okay, thank you so much for your valuable
Can
answer on this as well. Uh,
can you give me 30 seconds? I want
oh
to
yes, sure,
I
sure,
want to
yes.
teach my wife to tell her that I'm not going to be able to pick up my kids so that she can go and pick them up, if you don't mind.
I mean, I truly, yes, definitely. I mean, I truly apologize. Is this
No,
something
no, no,
because
it's
the
okay.
first session? Yeah.
I told her that it's going to be until 3:30, but if for some reason it was shorter than that, I will be able to pick them up. But um,
I truly apologize. I mean, if this session is holding
no,
you
no,
back
no,
from
no.
picking up,
I
yeah,
I know that it's stated from 2 to 2:30, so
yeah.
I was prepared for that. All right.
Thank you. So,
Sorry about.
yes. No, 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 definitely. I mean, I apologize for holding you in the
Okay.
session, but yes. Okay, so like I'll just, try to wrap it up real quick in like 10, 15 minutes. We'll just be taking the questions that we have from the applicants. We have been, discussing all of this very, elaborately. So let's just, put you in a tough spot for now and, give you a rapid round of questions and you have to, yes, I mean, if you're open to that. So quick questions and quick answers. You have two applicants. One of them have a reasonably good step to score, 240s to 50s plus, but they have like average letter of recommendations. In their area of graduation is okay, like 3 4 years, and then their interview presence is okay, like you rated like 7 out of 10 or maybe in this number. And then there's an applicant who has a low step 2 CK slash an attempt, both in the same category, right? Like 220s maybe. And they have strong letter of recommendation and their interview presence is like at par with the one that you previously interviewed with the strong step two, but like a generic letter of recommendation or might be some, ordinary MSPE or dean's letter. So you are confused between the two applicants. You have to rank one of them higher than the other. So what will be your decision on this part?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Um, the first step would be is this person who had like really failed attempt to be able to get an interview. That
Mhm.
means there's something in the application that was strong and was able to he or she was able to compensate for that failed attempt, right? So that means there's some a strong aspect of their application. So that's I would say that's good in itself. So to add to that, if they're able really to kind of show good communication skills and good personal attributes during the interview, and they were able to answer some of the questions about their failed attempt, for example, or the thing that were questionable in their application, I would probably go with that person. If really they were able to convince me during the interview that their communication skills are strong and they're I'm assuming that again their application passed the um, the threshold for interview to begin with, I think there will be a stronger candidate in the rank, in my opinion, because they kind of meet two of the three criteria, right? So academics, the rest of the application, the interview. So if they have issues with academics, scores, failed attempts, all that, or the even a medical school performance, but they did well in the rest of the application, including the personal statement, letter of recommendation, and U.S. experience or something like that, and then they did also well in the interview, then they're probably more likely to be higher in the rank, I would say, than someone who did not very well during the interview, or they have some communication skills or English fluency or something like that.
Mhm.
By English fluency, I mean not accent. I mean really just understanding you. Just I know what you're saying. you're clear in communication, you're clear in being able to, to express what you want to say. Accent is not a factor, I would say.
Mhm.
It just really, you're able to be make yourself understood, and you're able to express yourself during the 15-minute time.
Yes, okay, thank you so much. And like my next question would be, there are two applicants. One of them have an excellent step to seek a score, and then the other applicant has an exceptional letter of recommendation. So my question to you is that by an exceptional letter of recommendation, what exactly is that one or two phrases? If you read that in a letter, you give that applicant an interview invite, irrespective of their like academic part, or like is there something magical in the letter of recommendation that you trust the other clinical provider, or is that all of the things eventually sum up, and then you decide that we are going with this applicant or not?
Why are you asking difficult questions? No, I'm just kidding. So,
Okay.
writing letter of recommendation yourself, myself, I would say number one is for how long that person knows this person. I
Mhm.
want someone who really knows you for reasonable time. And that's why a lot of time when I get approached by a medical student, for example, who rotated with me for a week, and they asked me for a letter, I told them, to be honest with you, I don't know if I can write you a strong letter of recommendation based on 1 week encounter. I can write you one, but it's probably going to be generic because I just haven't observed much of you to encourage me to write a really strong letter of recommendation. What does that mean? I would like to see, so someone who worked with you for a month, I really expect them to be able to write the specifics, examples, an event that happened that really reflects an attribute. So you're telling me that they're punctual, like they really come on time, is not enough, like, or not as good as you're telling me, you know, um, I was late during that uh, um, presentation, and I thought that my this medical student or this candidate, this observer is not going to be there because they're really hesitant. And I was surprised they actually came in time and they already prepared and they set up the screen and they have everything ready. For example, that's a practical example to tell me that they're punctual, for example, right? Telling me that they're humble is good, but give me an example that they, they're this observer, they have very strong um, academics, they really knows a lot, but during round they don't really answer the question until unless they're being asked. So that means they know that they know the answer, but they don't want to brag. They don't want to show themselves in front of the resident, for example. That might tell me they're humble, right? They really don't like to kind of show off. They not right to really take advantage of other residents not knowing the answer, for example. So giving examples in the letter, I think, is really more useful than just putting the statement there. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of uh, um, program directors, those who look into applications, they mentioned that they like this phrase in general, like top 1% of the medical student I work with, or top 5% of those who joined our program, or something like that. I personally, I'm okay with that. But if I see like, especially the top 1%, that's okay. I like it, but I still gonna be looking for other specifics in your in the letter that really tells me more details, some more examples, not just saying that he's strong or he's good. And then, of course, the time frame. You cannot tell me that he's the top 1% if he just worked with you for a week, right?
Yes,
That's
definitely.
not fair.
Yes, yes. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Like, I was just putting you in the hard spot. That is why I was so curious about asking these questions.
No, that's good.
Like,
Very good
yeah, yeah.
questions.
Okay, so the next question is, a lot of applicants have asked this, that what is the weightage of letter of interest, and like, do programs actually have the time to review letter of interest received via emails, or uh, like, do they have an impact?
Yeah, letter of interest and geographical preference, is that the same thing or like close to each other? I think in the application I see two of them almost close to each other. One is like, what is your is that like the geographical experience and something else? I forget.
Yes, there is a geographical preference part as well. Like
Right,
I'm interested in California, I'm interested to work in New York. So yeah.
right.
So mm,
Yeah, I think it's more personal, I would say. So yes, if you have a preference to, for us, for example, to the stay in California, yeah, that's nice. One of the goals of the most of the programs is to have um, graduates really stay in where they're trained to help the community there. And we think that it's really something that if we are able to achieve, it's something that the community will appreciate, right? Yeah, we're here in Fresno. A lot of the residents, they really want more physicians to be available for them, more specialists to be available for them. So if we're able to provide them with more graduates who are going to stay here, they like it here because they have good experience with St. Agnes, that would be good. So it's more likely that you're going to stay if you have friends or family in California than someone who's not. But I understand that most of the IMGs, they might not have a relative here. But if you do, mention it, bring it up. I think it's something good. Or if you have a friend in that area, also, I think it helped. Bring it up. That tells me that you have at least some ties around, and you might prefer us based on that. So yeah, this I think it's just like the signal maybe. I don't know if you have that question or not, but I think it's the signaling is also something that I think maybe it's relatively new. I don't know if they're gonna have different perspective in the future. We're still learning about this, but it makes sense that if you really flag me as really one of the top three, I think, for internal medicine, if I remember correctly.
there are like three for gold and 11
Silver.
for silver, 12 for silver. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I go for gold. If you silver me, I'm not gonna rank you high. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
But yeah, for gold is definitely I would say that, again, if you have two strong candidates, one of them flagged St. Agnes, the other didn't, and both of them are strong, I'll probably take the one who had flagged the program. I would say, it
mhm.
just makes sense. Um,
Yes. Okay, so just like the last couple of questions, that brings me to the next question of the applicant. So does it really matter if you interview, like if an applicant schedules their interview at the later part of the interview cycle? Like there's an applicant who you interviewed in the start of October, and then there's an applicant who you interviewed in December. So will there be a bias when you're interviewing the second applicant, or like what is your take on this?
Probably. Those of you you probably came across recency bias, right? If you've seen a patient who died from pulmonary embolism, then you're most likely to order CT pulmonary embolism protocol in every single patient that you're going to see with chest pain in the future, right? Just because you have seen a dramatic effect, from that recent experience. So there maybe, but to be honest with you, still, I think most of the program, what they do is they rank the candidate after the interview. So they rank them based on their application, and then based on the application they interview them, and then they rank them based on the interviews, how well each of the attendings or each of the faculty rank them during the interview. And most of the time, what we do and some other program do, they just talk together about each candidate after the completing the interview for that date, and then just kind of rank them based on that, like how well they did during the interview. So that stays there until February or until March, until the ranking process start, and then the program director goes over it from the beginning until the end to sort it out. So you're going to be signaled, you're going to be high if you already have a good strong application and you already did well during the interview, even if you interviewed in October or November, I would say. But yes, if you're maybe it's wise and more practical to interview in a program that you're really interested in at the last compared to beginning, like in January or February, because one, for recency bias that we just talked about, and two, um, because you have more experience in interviewing maybe. So you have some prior experiences, you practiced, you did, you're really able to improve your communication skills, hopefully, by the time that, January and February comes, unless you're someone who get really tired and fatigued early, and then you need to do it early. So it's your personal experience and your personal attribute. But in general, I would advise maybe have the program that you're really interested in, have the interview date maybe a little bit late.
Perfect. Thank you. And so just the last question of the session, and then I mean, you're free to go to pick up your kids as well. Yeah. So the last question is, the data shows there's this concept in the IMG community as well that California is not very IMG friendly state. There are like a list of, top 8, 10 states, and California doesn't really fall in that. So is it true like California is not open to IMGs, or like is it program based, or how is St. Agnes as a program like open to IMGs, or what's your preference?
You know what Trump says? It's fake news. I
Okay.
think it's fake news. I think it's fake news. That used to be the case. I would say maybe during the time when I applied, they
Mhm.
have their own protocol. Yes, they have their own things. California is nasty in that. I don't know why they do it. They are full of themselves, not just in
Mhm.
medicine, but in a lot of things. It's just different reasons for, but it's a reality. But there's a lot of IMG friendly programs, including ours, and there's more coming. They're like, I would say the number of new internal medicine programs, or even other specialty programs developing in Central California, I would say, because there's a lot of need for physicians in that area. Even in the Bay Area, San Francisco area, or like LA area, there's still a lot of programs that are IMG friendly. So if you're able to pay a little bit more to that credentialing process, I think they keep changing it. It's stupid, but it is what it is. But yeah, don't overlook California programs. I think it's especially new programs. It's got a lot of good opportunities, a lot of IMG friendly programs. They're really looking into all the even sponsoring visa. So for many candidates. So and yes, maybe a lot of candidates might not look into that. So it might be an opportunity for you to be less apply to less competitive programs. Have less candidate there. But it's growing. A lot of people now realizing California maybe for IMGs is it's underscored. So maybe we need to apply there. So take advantage of that and apply early. Before it's become popular like the other states.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I am truly indebted to you, Dr. Mohammed Hassan, for taking out the time. I mean, I understand that you were expecting a very short session, and I, kept
No,
on
no,
tagging you with questions.
no.
Yes.
I need
So thank
like
you.
a half an hour, so I was prepared for that.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Alsan. We will definitely be, keeping in touch with you. We might, take up your time for another session later in the math season, or in the next season, or whenever your schedule, fits best. So thank you so much. I personally truly learned a lot from you, and I'm very sure like the 110 applicants that were here would have definitely been feeling the same about you. So thank you so much for joining us today. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a lot of videos about medical education, try to help some people with some aspect of residency training, including the 6 core competencies and others. So if you really interested in some of that, just take a look, see if you can find any of these videos helpful. And I
Mhm.
really open to any comments or anything that you want me to talk about in these videos. I would be more than happy to. So, and again, as an AMD, feel encouraged. I think it's tough. Yes, it's not easy, but you guys have been really doing a lot of effort into all this long journey. So stay strong and keep the faith and what you believe, and you get to what you want. But after the wills of God.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. Thank you so much. Very nice meeting you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.